Moving on, Web 101, here we have the idea of centering your page content using CSS. Now, what I will say is this is baked into the pudding of HTML and CSS. Now, we call this the wrapper. What essentially happens is, now these are optional, but they are standard. So what I'm saying is you do not have to center the content in your page. However, your unknown potential future client is going to subconsciously look for your page to be centered because every other page on the internet is centered. It doesn't look right in the background here. So even if I was to go to rockvalleycollege.edu, I can tell you it's not going to look right behind me. It's just a limitation of OBS. But if you were to go to rockvalleycollege.edu, you would notice that the page is centered. You would notice that here the Get Started portion that you see behind me is centered on the page. If you were to scroll down, this You Belong Here would be centered on the page. If I was enabled to show you more scrolling down, the student fees and other things lower on the page are centered on the page. It doesn't really matter where you go. We are accustomed to seeing the content centered in your page. We accomplish that using this that you do finally see behind me here on the page, which is known as the wrapper. So the wrapper is, remember, it is optional, but it is standard, which means you do not have to use it, but you should. The wrapper is a baked-in element now in HTML and CSS. So where every page starts with your body, essentially you would put the wrapper immediately following your opening body tag. So that means if at the bottom of your web page, so top to bottom, left to right, in that order exclusively is how all programming languages read code. So the very last line of all of your web pages, for the most part, will be, slash body, because that's the end of our web page. Immediately before that slash body, we should be closing out our wrapper, because the wrapper is where, think about a wrapper. It's the thing that goes outside of all of the content. So that's what all of our web pages built here on forward will do, is immediately inside of body, we will have that wrapper. The wrapper, we can specify whether or not it will be centered or left or right justified. You'll want it center justified. The way that we can do that, you can see right here, is with margin right or margin left. Auto simply says that we will let the width of your viewport determine where it is that everything there is going to be displayed. My suggestion to you is margin : auto semicolon takes care of that margin left, margin right for you with one shorthand statement. So just margin auto takes care of that for you. And what we do is we create content that is centered in the viewport, irrespective of how big the viewport is. So whether or not it is on a phone, a tablet, a desktop, it doesn't matter. That is something that your unknown potential future client is going to be looking for. So you do not have to provide it, but you will provide it. We manage that with the wrapper. And we manage that wrapper by centering all of the content.